seeing that apparently over on Cartoon Network, you know, the network that I grew up watching mostly, apparently there is something called the Kids Guide that is being advertised over there. Now, I'm not super familiar with the Kids Guide, but apparently it's a pretty standard thing. Educational books for kids, right? So you've got Celebrate American History, America's 250th birthday. It's the ultimate party favor. You've got the Kids Guide to a Healthy Mind and Body, the Kids Guide to National Parks. These are all things you would expect. What I wasn't expecting was what I saw right here.
The QR code on your screen or going to freetrumplevel.com. Teach your kids about the values of leadership, determination, through the story of
escape.
What?
achievements and momentous victories. The Kids Guide to President Trump is part of the Kids Guide, a popular series that ensures your kids are learning the truth without bias.
The Kids Guide to President Trump. Now, again, I don't know if this is actually airing on Cartoon Network. I did not see any confirmation that it was airing on Cartoon Network. I'm just seeing people say that they cannot debunk that it was airing on Cartoon Network. But let's go ahead and talk about it regardless, because even whether it's on Cartoon Network or not, it is something that is being advertised directly to children. So let's go ahead and get the first thing out of the way. Every single conservative accusation about trying to manipulate children is actually an admission from those conservatives that that is what they themselves are doing. The reason that the left gets accused of so many of these heinous things that the right really does not want us to do is because they themselves are doing it. Reality Truth says false information. What do you mean false information? I'm looking at the website right now from the Kids Guide, and I even pointed out that I cannot verify if it is or is not on Cartoon Network, but it is being marketed to kids irrespective of that reality truth. I apologize if you are unable to understand that, if I need to repeat things or perhaps say them slower so that you can understand. Seffi says, this is illegal if memory serves. Is it? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. So he says, prove companies will sell anything for enough money. He said, Hatch Act, maybe. Even if it isn't real, people will make it real. So, the Kids Guide to the Courage of the President. Here's everything you get with the free gift bundle. The Kids Guide to President Trump, the Kids Guide to the Courage of the President, and unlimited access to the Kids Guide online. Give your kids a peek inside the Trump presidency. President Trump's second term is off to a great start. He's hard at work delivering on his campaign promises to make America great again. Our kids won't hear the truth about this in school, so it's up to us to show them. That's why we created the Kids Guide to President Trump gift bundle, and now we're giving it away for free. So note that this is not the Kids Guide themselves. So the Kids Guide themselves, I cannot find anywhere on their website where they are actually trying to sell this. This is something completely separate. This is something that seems to be not sponsored by them. Said you found it, shop the Kids Guide. Is it just not on their main page? Is that what it is? Hold on. School sponsorship, no. Shop our guides. I need shop our guides. Let's shop our guides. Shop thekidsguide.com products. Kids Guide collection. Kids Guide to the Bible. Ah, there it is. Kids Guide to the Bible. Okay, yep. Nope, this is them. I am incorrect. This is them. Kids Guide to the Bible. How the Bible shaped our world. How the Bible built America. So, it's all propaganda. It is all just propaganda. Lots and lots and lots of fucking-ganda. The entire thing. I did not see it advertised on the front of their website, so I thought maybe it wasn't that, but no, it actually is their thing. So when you look at the main page for the Kids Guide that I saw earlier, it doesn't advertise that, so it looks fairly innocuous. Kid's Guide to Standing Up to Bullies, Kid's Guide to Making Friends, Kid's Guide to Appreciating Your Parents. And then, of course, we see in here that, no, it's a little bit different. Kid's Guide to the Origins of World War I, Kid's Guide to Civil Rights, Kid's Guide to Trump. Said, yay, propaganda slams head on the table. So, let's see here. Who is the guy? Who's the person that made this? Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee is the guy who did this. Insane. So thekidsguide.com, our guides. Let me take a look at that real quick. Pulling that up right here. The courage of the president. Yeah, it's all just fucking propaganda. That is fantastic. So, said Sylvie, I didn't learn about World War I until fucking halfway through high school. Right, but you need to sell the idea. You need to sell the idea that the United States is the police of the entire world. So, like, I got, when I was a kid, I played Resident Evil 4, and there is a quote from the villain of the game, Sadler, who says that the United States claims that they're the police of the world, and he's the villain, so he's criticizing the U.S. Game made in Japan, and it's very, very interesting that at the time, that didn't occur to me. Like, as a kid who watched us go from the war on terror to, like, a forever war in Afghanistan, it didn't occur to me that that's what we were doing. But, like, as I got older and as I started reading things like Noam Chomsky, you know, weird shit that he's been found in the Epstein files aside, started finding out that actually, no, America does do that a lot. So, who's Mike Huckabee? Well, he was the host of the talk show Huckabee, which ran on Fox News for about 7 whole years. This is a guy who is no stranger to the media environment at all. And when we look at that, it said ambassador to Israel. Yeah, he is a lot of things. He's assumed office in April 21st of 2025. Interesting. He was the 44th governor of Arkansas. He was the chair of the National Governors Association before going on Fox News. Let's see here. What else can we find about him? God, it makes so much sense, though, looking at what he's doing, because I can see, like, the kid's guide to Elon Musk. Get this guide so that you can celebrate Elon Musk. You know, the guy who did Doge. Yay. Said his daughters throws the kids into the mines they so yearn for. Fantastic. Fantastic. And yep, as of 2025, President Donald Trump announced his intention to nominate Huckabee to be the ambassador to Israel, but of course he is now the United States ambassador to Israel. So, you know, of fucking course, the guy who is our liaison to tell us that we need to go to war against Iran, all for Israel, that guy is going to be making all of these cringy fucking guides. Man, the kid's guide to Elon Musk having the Cybertruck with the fucking American flag there, wild. Kid's Guide to Appreciating Your Parents. Kid's Guide to Understanding Your Grandparents. It's appreciating your parents, but it's understanding your grandparents. Man, I've never read any of these. The Kid's Guide to Free Speech and Cancel Culture. What? The Kid's Guide to Our One Nation Under God. The Kid's Guide to Fighting Indoctrination. That's really weird. The Kid's Guide to Fighting Indoctrination, but it's an entire set of reports about indoctrinating people. Okay. Kid's Guide to Entrepreneurship, The American Dream. Kid's Guide to the Ladies of Liberty. Let's see here. What else do we have in here? Dorito says he isn't at the worst ones yet. The worst ones? Hold on. The Kid's Guide to the Civil War. A Nation Divided, Brother Against Brother, and the Freedom and Sacrifice. Why do we need I love how, like, the civil rights gets one book, but the Kid's Guide to Wars get a trilogy each and every time. Sebby says, why does the Statue of Liberty have tape on her mouth? Because that's been a symbol that right-wing parties have been using for censorship for a really, really long time. Man, every single, like, major event that you would have had a nod to in school, and then some you wouldn't. Kids Guide to Women's Sports? Wait a minute. Why is there specifically a Kid's Guide to Women's Sports? Do you wonder why maybe specifically they would have a Kid's Guide to Women's Sports? Specifically, I wonder if maybe there's a particular controversy that the right has been aping for a long fucking time that this in particular is aiming at. The Kid's Guide to Why Capitalism Rocks. The kid with big dreams lemonade who's never going to actually make enough money from doing that to do things like afford an education. Jesus fucking Christ. Apparently, Mr. Beat has a video about them where he actually read some of these. I need to see here. Oh, no, actually, no. I don't want to read his. I don't want to watch his. I want to look at this myself. So, Kid's Guide to Fighting Socialism. Surely they have a digital version of this online that we can read. There we are. The important gift bundle includes the Kid's Guide to Fighting Socialism, unlimited access to our entire library of animated video lessons, and a 30-day pass to eSpired Library featuring 48,000 more as well. Trace James says, is he gonna buy a book? Please send me this free gift bundle. No, Mike Huckabee. I don't want you to send me things. I don't want to do that. I want to just see if surely somebody scanned this shit online. Interestingly, Dorito found the Kid's Guide to the Coronavirus, and it's actually not terrible. So, like, it points out that the coronavirus was spreading when COVID was, getting big. It talks about social distancing, the fact that it's good, ways to stay busy while social distancing. Like, that's actually not bad. Starts talking, like, has an area all about germs, educating people on that. Has an area talking about vaccines and how vaccines are different from antibiotics, because there were a lot of people who thought they could just take antibiotics in order to just... Yeah, I can post the link to that real quick, Trace James. Here you go. But yeah, there were a lot of people who thought that antibiotics would work on COVID because they didn't know the difference between a virus and a bacteria. Like, this one's actually not terrible. It's not that terrible. If you're around someone, experts say that you should stay 6 feet away from them. All this is meant to discourage people from going to places where COVID can spread, which should just slow down its spread. Points out how, like, quarantines actually do keep us safe. Like, interesting that it actually is not terrible for that specifically. I guess we can look at the advertisement for it and see, just based on a couple of the pages, what we've got there.
Parents and grandparents.
But if it's anything like that one, then it's going to be like, what, 10 pages or so? No wonder they can give it away for free. They don't... It's like those flyers that churches give out. It doesn't cost them a whole lot of money to print billions of them. But let's take a look at the advert.
Cuba is just another example of the damage that socialism can do to a country, but the radical left is pushing it on America. Kids need to know why it won't work, and Mike Huckabee wants to help by sending you the Kid's Guide to Fighting Socialism free for a limited time. This important gift will help kids learn.
Oh my God! It looks like it's all the pages. Mike Huckabee. All right, let's see here. Let's see how much shit they get wrong. Okay. Capitalism is the best because... Oh, hold on. Where's page one? Where's page one? Where's page one, Mikey? There we go. Did you know that it's impossible to have socialism and lots of freedom? What? What definition of socialism are you talking about? Because socialism is when the proletariat or the working class controls the means of production. That's it. You still have markets, you still have freedom, you still have competition, you still have all of that. All socialism is when instead of a CEO or an owner like Elon Musk having ownership of the factory as an idea, you have that collectively owned. In short, socialism is looking at democracy and government and saying, holy shit, that's so cool. Why don't we go ahead and do that same system, but in business? There's different ways this can manifest, by having people come together and form guilds, as an example. That's one way. That's called syndicalism. You can have it as a branch off from unions, where the unions end up eventually consuming the business as a whole. Like, there are ways to do it, to enact it. Said YouTube says they've got all of them. Okay, so is the guide to... Let's see if the guide to socialism is in here. Socialism. The Kid's Guide to Fighting Socialism. Is it just the advertisement, though?
Parents and grandparents.
It's just the advertisement. It's just the advert, but that's fine, because that gave us what we need. So, did you know that no socialist government in history has ever been successful? Learn about socialism's failures on page 10 and 11. Did you know that learning is the best way to fight socialism? Discover more ways to fight socialism on pages 16 and 17. Then why is it that the more I learned about economics, the more in favor of socialism I was? That's strange. Did you know that the Pilgrims tried socialism and found out that it didn't work? Learn more on pages 6 and 7. Again, I feel like they may not know what the definition of socialism is, or at least they may deliberately not know, because socialism's kind of a catch-all for everything for a lot of people on the right. So, according to this, socialism is a belief system that says the government should control property and business. No, that's not what it is. There is nobody saying that government should control property specifically under socialism. Under socialism, you still have your personal property, because maybe people don't understand that this stuff is like 4 years old. Yep, maybe people don't really get it, but if we're talking about anything in like the Marxist landscape, you've got personal property and private property. Private property is the toothbrush factory. Personal property is your toothbrush. Nobody is coming for you for your fucking toothbrush. Nobody gives a shit about that. So when you have something that says, like socialism says, that property is being controlled, that's not actually what's being argued at all. And belief that government should control business, also no. The idea is that the businesses themselves would operate as their own governments. Not their own governments in that they can write laws that they can pass down to us, but if you look at any business, a business operates identically to any government at all. Reality True says Cuba and Venezuela tried socialism and failed. So in Cuba and Venezuela, the entirety of all of your markets, of your trade, all that was handled by the workers specifically. Is that what happened there, or were they more authoritarian? Because I believe that they were more authoritarian than that. Again, socialism isn't about the government itself intervening in any way, shape, or form. It is about those individual areas where the workers can have power, having that power. It says socialism is an authoritarian political system because people aren't allowed to own things for themselves. Again, that is not what socialism is, Mike Huckabee. Nobody is coming for your fucking toothbrush. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what's the next one that's there. What's your next page? The history of socialism. Socialism started in Europe in the 1800s. During that time, the Industrial Revolution had increased poverty and inequality, so early socialists wanted government to tax wealthy people and businesses to distribute the money to the poor. Did you know that during the time of the Industrial Revolution in America, we had between a 70 and 90% taxation rate on people who were making a significant amount of money? Did you know that that is what we had under capitalism, not socialism? Weird. Anyway, they wanted to tax wealthy people and businesses to distribute their money to the poor. They also thought that workers should own the businesses that they worked for. There we go. That's the one. They got it. They actually have a little bit in there where they talked about it. a writer named Marx used socialist ideas to create a system that we call Marxism. Marx thought that the socialists weren't radical enough. He thought that the rich and poor were enemies, so there needed to be revolution to overthrow capitalism. Okay, that's actually more accurate, but there is an idea of socialism as a transitory state into communism if we're talking about Marx, but okay, sure. That's somewhat accurate. Socialists on the Mayfire. People first started calling themselves socialists during the 1800s, but the idea of socialism has been around longer than that. In fact, it had already failed in America. Socialism just doesn't work. Unlike capitalism, which rewards hard work and great ideas, my guy, if it works as well as it does, then you shouldn't have to constantly talk about how well it works. It should be self-evident. Anyway, that socialism destroys people's motivation to work. Okay, so, man, that's really strange. That's really weird, because last I checked, if I own the thing that I am working towards, I'm personally more motivated to work for it, right? Like, when I'm working for a boss, I do the bare minimum to get the job done, and that's usually about it. When I am working for myself, I am willing to invest more of my time if I feel like I'm getting more out of it. Also, reality truth, I came to bat for you a second ago saying people shouldn't bite your head off, but you decided to call somebody in my chat a mentally ill freak. So we're going to go ahead and put you in timeout, because you obviously can't operate with anything other than a child's understanding of conflict. So we're going to go ahead and treat you like a kid, put you in the corner, and in 600 seconds you can come back out swinging, or you can come back out acting like a normal human being. I will always come to bat for people who come into my chat who don't agree with me but are still willing to stick around and talk and listen. The minute you start being as much of an asshole as the other people in my chat, I'm sorry, but no. Anyway, here, let's see here. It's got a bit in here about Plymouth saying it was originally socialistic with no private property. Everybody shares food. That's, again, that is that's collectivism more than anything. And yeah, there's a version of communism where that is the case, where it's from each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. But that's not socialism. Again, socialism is literally just you have workers who own the means of production. That's it. Full stop. Anything past that is an additive to that. Okay, let's see. What else does it have in here? Capitalism versus socialism. All right, let's look at the pros of capitalism. Free market rewards success, private property, individual freedom. Let's talk about that. So, if you have individual freedom, that's cool, and I think everybody should have their individual freedom. But if you do not have the ability to function because you have a chronic condition, for instance, you don't really have a whole lot of freedom. Like, everybody has freedom to do basic shit, but if you are limited because you can't afford to drive, you can't afford to eat, you can't afford to get a medical condition taken care of, in those situations, you don't really have the freedom to do those basic things. A billionaire and a poor person have equal freedoms to buy a yacht, but that doesn't matter at all when you consider that one of those people can't actually buy that fucking yacht. So when you say individual freedoms, you need to be a little specific. Do you have a system that says you have negative freedoms? Or do you have a system that enables you to have positive freedoms? A negative freedom is your freedom to not be harassed, your freedom to not be stopped. Your positive freedom is something that enables you to do something. Okay, socialism. Controlled market. Not really. So if you've got workers owning the means of production, who's controlling the market? The government's not controlling the market, the workers are. And at that point, what's the difference between the workers having control over that versus, you know, some fucking oligarch? Socialism punishes success. How? In what way? If I work at a shoe store and I own part of the shoe store because, you know, socialism, and the shoe store has a really good year, then we get to talk about how much money we all get to make from that. Because instead of a, you know, CEO at the top who is skimming all of those profits for themselves, those profits only have one place to go, and that is the workers. And because the workers are democratically electing their leaders instead of having one imposed on them, If some leader tries to do that skimming of those profits, guess what? They get voted out. Democracy takes hold, they lose their position, and suddenly we're back where we were, electing a new person who will hopefully be less corrupt. Democracy isn't a perfect system, but is a system that in theory has self-correction. Socialism rewards laziness. How? If the workers own the means of production, then they naturally have to work to get shit. How is laziness awarded there? Also, if it rewards laziness, I'm just curious, is the CEO or the board of directors, are they not some of the laziest fucking people in the world, my guy? See here, high taxes. Okay, so high taxes are not actually a bad thing. We'll argue about high taxes, but there are systems that can make taxes perfectly fine. One of those ways is when taxes are actually being used to pay for your needs. Your schooling, your roads, when taxes are being used to pay for your medical expenses, then suddenly taxes aren't quite that bad. You can have all of the individual money in the world, but if you don't have your health, you don't really have anything at all. High taxes funding public works is not that bad. Also, real quick, gotta fix something. There we go. So, if I have all the money in the world, but I have a chronic condition, or I have some other illness that I can't treat because I also don't have the money for healthcare. Hypothetical, take it for a second. I understand this is a contradiction within itself, but if you have money and material things, but you yourself are not healthy, you yourself are suffering, then you don't really have a whole lot in that scenario. You're actually not doing so hot. You can die in your gilded casket. Let's see what it says about communism. Communism, no private property. Well, yes, that is true. Under communism, there is no private property, but under communism, the idea of private property is naturally separate from personal property. So people have no rights under communism. How? Communism is a stateless, classless, moneyless society. Under that system, people have all the same rights as they do under capitalism. Promotes corruption. Capitalism also promotes corruption. So the ability for corruption to seep in is not unique to communism or socialism or capitalism. It is something they all share. Under capitalism, one oligarch can use lobbying to get government to do what the fuck they want instead of having a, actual vote to determine what is good for the rest of us in society. That's corruption. Under socialism, you can have corruption where a cabal of people are constantly trying to get certain people elected within their work so that they can do things like skim profits, and then if somebody gets knocked out, then they can scheme to get another person elected who will be a puppet for them as well. Basically, the exact same thing that happens when you see Congress bought by AIPAC. That exists in socialism. But again, that's not unique to it. That just happens when you have a democracy. And then, of course, communism, stateless, classless, all you have to do is have a group of people that decide to come together to force a hierarchy, and then through that hierarchy, you bring in corruption. It's not unique. It's not unique to any of these systems at all whatsoever. Jessa says, but you, Suris, don't understand. Mike worked hard for that 18 million net worth. Yeah. Although, according to Credit Karma, my net worth is 140,000. Despite the fact that I don't have shit in my bank account, so I don't know how much that actually means. Let's see what else we've got.
Socialism, free.
Capitalism uses the power of incentives to help everybody, yeah, except those who have chronic healthcare needs.
For a limited time.
Okay.
This important.
Then how do economies work? Okay, let's see what it's got here. Capitalist economy. An economy in capitalism is a system for making and using money. There are different kinds of economies. America's economy is a free market capitalist economy where people pay money in exchange for goods and can make money by working or by starting businesses. Yeah, that exists in socialism as well. That's no different. Socialism is another kind of economy. Under socialism, the government controls businesses. Incorrect. And the entire economy. Incorrect. You're talking about something closer to state capitalism, not socialism or communism. Let's see here. Property is supposed to be owned and shared by everybody. No. If I am not a worker at the shoe factory, then I don't own any part of the fucking shoe factory. Everybody's supposed to work together to produce whatever society needs. That's all. We already do that. We already do that. That's not different. Everybody is supposed to be equal. Nope. The guy who gets elected democratically to run the shoe store, to run the shoe factory, is going to have more power than the people that elected them. Just socialism is democracy in the workplace. How? Okay. No one gets rewarded for working harder than anybody else. If I work harder than everybody else at the shoe factory, and through that people recognize that, oh, you're a really hard worker, you do incredibly good at your job. You know what? You seem like the kind of person who would be really good at managing other people to do that job. You could teach them really well. Let's go ahead and elect you to be the person who's in charge of that. There, I got rewarded for my work. That's socialism.
Important gift will help kids learn why.
Okay, let's see here. Socialism doesn't work because no risk, no rewards. Socialists expect the government to take care of people, so they don't have any incentive to work hard and try to be successful. My guy, have you talked to anybody who is on any kind of Social Security? People who are being taken care of by the government right now are actively trying to do things to improve their situation. For the percentage of people who don't, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? That's micromanaging people to a huge degree. Jasso says UBI study says that's bullshit. I have not looked into any of the UBI studies, so I don't personally want to quote that, because I can't hang my hat on that quote. I would need to, if you want to throw some studies at me, go ahead. I'm personally an advocate for UBI because I feel like it should work. But if you want to throw some studies at me so I can actually say that with a measure of confidence, then by all means. Mr. Malachi says, why should governments exist if not for the good of their own people? Yeah, no, that's exactly the point. Why the fuck have the government if the government's not going to help people? That's what it's for. The taking from others. Socialism doesn't work as it takes from others. How? If the workers own their means of production, they're not taking fucking jack shit at all. Apparently, the University of Denver did a whole thing on UBI. Let's see here. So, Group A participants received 12 monthly cash transfers of $1,000 each. Group B participants received a one-time cash transfer of $6,500 during the initial enrollment and then received 11 monthly payments of $500 each. Group C are in our active comparison group and received 12 monthly payments of $50. Participants in each payment group received a phone with 12 months of service. No services are required of any participant in any of these study groups. However, participants from each group are encouraged to engage in any of the services they feel would be helpful. Let's look at the results of their research. Okay, so in the quantitative, the Denver Basic Income Project's Year 1 findings showed incredibly promising results from enrollment to the 10th month mark across a number of report metrics. All payment groups showed significant improvements in housing outcomes, including a remarkable increase in home rent and ownership, and a decrease in nights spent unsheltered. Participants reported positive shifts in financial well-being with an increase in financial stability and a greater ability to pay bills and reduce reliance on emergency assistance. Analysis found that the project participation is tied to substantial cost savings in public spending and a large reduction in public service utilization, including emergency room visits, hospital nights, and even jail stays. Project participation was especially helpful for families, noting that parenting distress and food security improved throughout the duration of the project for all three payment groups. Additionally, the project positively influenced participants' engagement in recreational activities and reduced time spent accessing resources, indicating enhanced social connectedness and leisure opportunities. So over the course of the program, participants who got this money used the money to meet their basic needs, including transportation, hygiene, groceries, and clothes. They used it to cover or catch up on regular bills and expenses, including rent, debt, healthcare, and car repair. And they used it to make bigger life changes like changing their house or purchasing a vehicle. So stimulating the fucking economy. Cool. So the qualitative evaluation report showed that people felt like when they no longer had to go without, they could actually prioritize their hierarchy of immediate basic needs. Regular bills were able to be paid. Apparently, the participants viewed self-care as a fucking luxury. So, like, yeah, I guess if you can't get a fucking shelter over your head, you're gonna view brushing your teeth as a luxury instead. All participants noted feelings of relief, decreased stress, increased hopefulness. When asked about the impact of, let's call it what it is, UBI, on their daily lives, one participant mentioned how paying for car insurance for the first time made it possible to not be stressed while driving, as they were no longer constantly looking over their shoulder. Yeah, as somebody who's been to fucking jail because of missing a car insurance payment, I understand that feeling. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so emerging goals of self-sufficiency. This is the one that would throw a lot of their shit in the trash. At time one, participants in Group A and B expressed their UBI spending plans for long-term items like housing, school, and transportation, highlighting a future orientation and hope for long-term security and self-sufficiency. Participants in Groups A and B expressed that these are concrete goals, where participants of Group C spoke specifically to a few items like gas, food, and hygiene. Remember, Group C were the ones who got $50, not, $1,000. Participants reflect on meeting a lot of their goals that they set out to meet, including 11 participants who met their housing goals, an increase from the amount who stated that they had housing goals at the beginning of the study. Okay, so JASA seems to be right. It looks like Denver doing this UBI thing showed that there were positive results across the board for everybody. And that's interesting, because that seems to be what Mike Huckabee thinks socialism is. This entire thing, just propaganda. Socialism and communism, a history of failure. Talking about Cuba, USSR, and China. So, USSR, did they actually have socialism? I don't know if that's accurate. China, I know, is not accurate, because in China, they have state capitalism, specifically. They have the Communist Party in power, but their actual economy is called state capitalism, where the state actually owns all of the business. And then Cuba, again, I am less knowledgeable on Cuba. Let me know in the comment section if that one's actually true where Cuba's concerned. And that seems to be all of the pages that they are willing to show in that advertisement. Neato. So didn't China in the older days do, though? Again, not certain there. I know the current economy for them is not communism, nor is it socialism. And yet there's this weird, specific argument that they are communistic because they have the Communist Party in power. Just like if we had Bernie Sanders in power right now, we wouldn't suddenly be socialist. Said state-based capitalism, go Burr. Yeah, state-based capitalism, go Burr. That's why Tencent owns so many fucking American companies. Okay, cool. Propaganda for the kids. Isn't it great, everyone? Especially when propaganda doesn't actually define terms very well. And studies show that even the definitions that they're using don't work. Neat. Fantastic. I love all of this. This is wonderful. I absolutely adore living in this particular dystopia. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.